When I was 20 years old, I came to the Netherlands to study. I was dreaming of the big money and a big business. I did my bachelor's in international business administration and master's in global business and stakeholder management here at the Erasmus University in Rotterdam.
Rotterdam?
Rotterdam, and that's my favorite, Rotterdam. The way you say it's Rotterdam, it's my favorite. Yeah.
Rotterdam.
Rotterdam.
How do you say it?
Rotterdam.
Rotterdam.
Yeah. At that time, the Rotterdam School of Management was one of the best business schools in the world. We were number 4 on the rankings of Financial Times. At the time when I lived here, Rotterdam was the largest port in the world. My classmates, their fathers were CEOs of big companies, they were ambassadors and things like that. And when I came in here, I had no money. I was biking to school and I had no idea how am I going to pay my tuition fees. I used to play the accordion here on the streets of Rotterdam, and that's how I made my money.
Playing the accordion and making money. Did you do that long?
Yeah, probably for over a year. I needed to get a permission from the Netherlands is all very organized. So I had to get a permission. They give you a permission. You're allowed to play in certain places at certain times and everything. So because back then, Bulgaria wasn't part of the European Union. I did not have the right to work.
What I remember is that we were at Albert College, that is prime, and you used to smoke a lot.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that you were pretty loud.
Loud? Me?
Yeah.
That's not possible.
You were also very opinionated.
No, that's not me either.
But you were my friend. And you were a very good friend. And, I felt like I needed to tell you about Jesus, and which is why we had those conversations.
That's right.
And I think at first you were adamant. I think you felt like I was like, who's this guy believing in all these fairy tales?
There it is, the Albert College where me and Julius started together. I used to stand out here and smoke a cigarette. And Julius told me, hey man, you need to stop smoking. It's bad for you. And I said, get out of here. You're not my mother. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to keep on smoking.
But, I felt like you were open enough, even though you tried to put up this facade that you were out of, you set a boundary. But I felt like you were open enough and there was nowhere God couldn't touch.
After the eye doctor told me that my vision is going to go progressively worse and one day I'm going to become blind, I just didn't know what to do with my life. I realized I won't be able to study, I won't be able to work, I won't be able to do anything. It felt like my life was over. I was thinking, what am I going to do? If I can't see, I won't be able to continue my computer studies. But then I'm also not going to be able to do an ordinary job. Then I was thinking, well, maybe I should go back to Bulgaria. But if I can't see, what am I going to do in Bulgaria? When you're blind, there's nothing you can do. And exactly at that moment, my phone rang. And guess who it was? It was Julius. And he said, hey man, how we doing? Haven't seen you in a while. What's happening with you? And I was like, oh my goodness. This is the absolutely last person on this planet I want to talk to right now. He's going to talk to me about Jesus and God and the Bible, and I really don't want to know anything about that. And I said, Julius, my life is over, but you go and do something with your life. And a couple of days later, Julius phoned me again. And he said, hey man, how we doing? With the whole church, we're praying for you. And I thought, what prayer? What church? What are you talking about? This guy's crazy. And I actually really didn't want to talk to him, but he kept on phoning me and phoning me and asking me how am I doing. And I was so tired of him.
Well, I remember that I was like, I'm getting old, so I was like, this guy's so annoying. He just keeps on, phoning me, and I'm like, I don't want to, I just don't want to speak to him anymore. I don't want to see him, So I was like, and I'm not interested in God. I don't want to know anything about God. So I was like, I want to sit down and tell him face to face that I don't want to talk about God.
Yeah.
And I realized he's not going to stop. So I thought to myself, I need to see this guy face to face and explain to him that I don't want to know anything about Jesus and God and the Bible and all these things. So I said, Julius, let's go for coffee.
Was that on Nevada?
Yeah, it was on Havana.
Yeah,
it was on Havana.
I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember that.
So we sat down at a cafe with Julius and I said, listen man, I come from a Christian country. I have been to a church. I've lit candles. I prayed. And nothing happens. So God doesn't exist. And I said, it's not possible that God exists a little bit and he doesn't exist a little bit. Either God exists and he's almighty and he's great,
Or he doesn't exist.
and I said, one of us is wrong.
I think that's you. Because you have no girlfriend, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't go to the disco, so you're just boring, you're wasting away your life.
I said, me and you, we need to sit down and figure out, does God exist or not? And settle that question once and forever between the two of us.
We can prove it scientifically.
And Julia said, great, great.
Come to home group. We have a home group tonight in the office, so come to home group.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna come to your home group, but I'm coming only because I want to find out, does God exist or not?
And I'm giving God a last chance to reveal himself to me tonight if he exists.
Yeah. That was the Jacobian
and Jackie.
It was actually Wednesday night, I think, not Thursday night.
I don't know what day was
Yeah,
that.
I think that one I remember.
So we jumped on the train and we went to Delft.
But we literally would have walked this way.
So the home group met above this Bible shop here in Delft.
Remember, it was up there. It was up there. Jacobian.
Jacob, how's it going, man? It's good to see you. Good to see you. You guys remember this place?
I do. We were just talking about how he brought me to your home group, which was up here, which you and Jackie were leading back then.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
We used to have new people come in all the time.
Yeah.
This central place here in the middle of Delft, there was always people coming in.
And I want to let the both of you talk. Hey, Jacobian.
Stefan.
Good to see you, man.
Long time no see.
Long time.
Aan de Voldersgracht, Stefan.
No, yeah, again, here we are. There was the Bible Inn.
Yeah.
The group used to meet up there.
Yeah. You remember the first time you came?
I do. I remember we came with Julius. He took me in there, and I came in, and there were all these people. I remember you with the guitar. You sang You sang a couple of songs, something like that. And I remember, my main question was like, I remember asking, because I knew that in the Bible that it said that God created the world, the animals, plants, everything in 6 days. And I asked you, do you guys believe that? And I remember you said, yeah, of course. And I was like, you people are crazy, But I said, listen, I believe in science. It's been millions of years of evolution and dinosaurs and this, and it's not possible that God would create the world just in 6 days, boom, like that. And I thought, wow, they're nice people, but very deceived, they can believe strange things. But the craziest thing I remember was that I'll ask you a question and you guys would be, oh, don't worry, God will show it to you. I remember somebody opened a verse from the Bible and they said, well, if you seek God with all of your heart, you will find him, And they said, oh, don't worry, God will show it to you. He will, all these questions you have, God will reveal them to. I was like, these people are not only deceived, but they don't know anything. They can't give me any answer,
Later on, it's called fake.
Yeah. God will answer, God will tell you this, God will tell you that. And and I remember at the end, you guys asked me you asked me if I want you to pray for my eyes, because I had that.
Yeah, you and your eye problem.
I had my eye problems, yeah. So, and I said, well, I have not come here to seek healing.
Yeah.
I've come here to seek if God exists or not. Because if God exists, he can heal me. But if God doesn't exist, you can pray as much as you want to, but nothing is going to happen. So I remember I asked that you guys will pray for me that God will reveal himself to me. That was and you prayed, and then we left. Yeah.
So with Julius, we came here in Delft, and he took me to the Lutheran Church of Delft. So Julius was a Nigerian and I'm a Bulgarian. Obviously, we were half an hour late for the service. And when I came in here, there were these crazy people jumping and shouting, Jesus, hallelujah! And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm in a sect. They are a cult. But then I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to be scared. I'm going to keep calm. I'm not going to run away. I'm just going to wait for their craziness to finish here, and then I'm going to calmly go home. So at a certain point, it became quiet. They left all their guitars, drums, it all became quiet. And someone came to us and said, please have a seat. So I couldn't leave. I had to sit down. So it all became quiet. We all sat down. And a man came forward, opened the Bible, and started reading from the Bible. And I remember at a certain point that man said that we have to forgive people. And I thought, oh, but I'm a good guy. I don't hate anybody. I haven't done anything wrong. There is nothing for me to forgive. And as I was thinking that, I heard a voice inside of me. And that voice said, have you forgiven your father? And at that group, they told me that God can speak to you. And I said, God, in case that's you, I want to tell you that my father was a bad man. He used to drink, he used to beat my mother, and I will never forgive him.
Struggles with your father and...
So when the church service was over, they invited us to have coffee and tea. And they were very friendly. I was talking to them and chatting, but as I was talking to them, I realized that my grandmother has taken me to church. She has told me about the Bible, that it's a good book, and I believe that there are good things written in the Bible. So I was thinking, it's not possible that a good book like the Bible will say that if somebody hits us and do something bad to us, we need to just forgive them. I think that you need to be a man, and if somebody beats you, you beat them back. And I asked these people, where is that forgiveness thing this man has been talking about? Is it in the Bible? Can I see it? Because I thought that the preacher guy, he got it wrong. So they gave me the Bible, they opened it, and they say, here it is. And what it says there was that Peter asked Jesus, how many times do I need to forgive my brother? 7 times? But Jesus said, no, 70 times 7. And I was like, wow, that's 490. After that, the people said, well, here is the Bible, you can take it and read it at home. We left the church, I got the Bible, and me and Julius were going to Rotterdam. As we were walking, he says, Stefan, you know what? The Bible is the Word of God. And he says, if I want to know something from God, I open the Bible and there is my answer. God can speak to you through the Bible.
So the Bible, you were saying about the Bible, God can speak to you through the Bible.
Yeah, that's what you told me.
Yeah.
And then what I did,
I came back from Delft with the Bible in my hand and I went home. I used to live up here going down on the 13th floor. I came home, I opened the Bible, and I started reading.
to find out what's actually happening in this book.
Yeah. And what did you find out?
And there it says, God said to Abraham, leave your country, leave your people, and go to a place which I'm going to show you. And I was really amazed. God can speak to people. So I read further in the Bible, and there it said, God says, do this, don't do that, I like this, I don't like that. And I was amazed that God can speak to people.
With human words, just like we're talking right now.
Yeah.
And then I read that Jesus Christ said, ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door shall be open unto you. And there it says, everyone who asks receives. Everyone who seeks finds. Everyone who knocks, the door will be open unto him. And I said, God, if you are real, and if you spoke to these people back then, it means that you can speak to me today. And here it says, everyone who asks receives. Not some people receive, other people do not receive. It says, everyone receives. And I said, I'm standing here, I'm asking, I'm knocking on that door, and I'm asking you to speak to me just as you spoke to these people back then. And then I heard a voice inside of me, and that voice said, you have to forgive your father. You have to forgive your father. You have to forgive your father. And that voice spoke with such power inside of me that I lost strength. I fell on my bed and I started crying. And I thought, if God speaks to me for one more minute, I'm going to die. So then I was so shocked, didn't know what to do. I jumped on my shoes and I went downstairs.
Such a shocker.
I came out of this door and I ran onto the streets of Rotterdam. And I was walking and smoking, and walking and smoking.
And what impact, I guess, did that have on you?
At that point, I did not believe that supernatural things exist. I did not believe in magic. I did not believe in any supernatural world. I believe that everything can be proven with science. But then I heard this voice and I realized God exists. This is serious business.
This is real. Jesus is alive.
And then I called Julius. I said, Julius, I heard this voice. I think it was God, and God told me to forgive my father. And I said, what should I do? And Julius says, well, just phone him. So, not far from here, the World Trade Center in Rotterdam, there used to be a phone booth. And I went, I put my card in, and I phoned my father. And I said, Dad, it's me, Stefan. I'm phoning from the Netherlands. I live here now, and I'm phoning to say that I forgive you. I forgive you everything you did to my mother, to my sister, to me. And I pray that God will forgive you also. And when I hang up the phone, I felt like a big rock was removed from my heart. I felt so light that I could fly. And I realized it's so good to forgive people. Then I decided I'm gonna buy postcards and I'm gonna write to everyone I hated in Bulgaria. So I went and I bought postcards. So I bought postcards and I wrote to the people in Bulgaria that I forgive them everything. And I said, I love you. And I felt great.
But I remember your zeal.
So after that, I realized that God exists and I wanted to start a whole new life. I quit my university and I decided I'm going to follow Jesus to the rest of my life. My hometown Russe is called also the small Vienna because it's on the bank of the river Danube, which is the longest river in Europe, which connects all of Europe. And it's also very, very beautiful, and it carries the same character, the same architectural style as the actual Vienna. So I came back to my hometown and I started sharing the vision about the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship with friends. And I was amazed that in a very short time, I was able to gather 8 Christian businessmen from 4 different churches and have lunch with them and share what we're doing with the Full Gospel in the Netherlands. And then I realized that this must be God. It is absolutely impossible for me to have gathered such people because I've been out of the country for over 10 years. I wasn't a believer when I was here. I didn't know any Christians, and suddenly I met with 8 Christian businessmen from 4 different churches. And I really saw the hand of God on the whole thing. So when I went back to the Netherlands, I told my friends, hey, God is really doing something in here. We really need to start the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship in Bulgaria. And sure enough, they all got excited, and in the next summer, we came over and we held a dinner meeting and we appointed the first chapter president here in Russe, Bulgaria. My city, Russe, is known as the city of the first things because through the Danube, lots of the Western civilization entered our country, and many of the first things that existed, they were first found here in Russe. And sure enough, we started the first chapter of the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship right here in Russe. And then I realized that me going around telling my testimony is not complete anymore, because now God has joined me together with my wife. We started our 2 businesses together, we raised children together, so I felt that we need to minister together because God has made us one.
And at that point came an invitation from Mr. Trevor Joseph to go and minister to the Caribbean. And we went together and we had the most great time. We had the most wonderful time there. We really saw lots of people being healed, people being delivered, people came to faith, and we realized that God has called us to minister together. We both started working together in the ministry. We started organizing dinner meetings together. My wife plays beautifully, and we found that actually we could bring music into our chapter meetings, which creates a really beautiful atmosphere. We don't do church services, we don't do worship, but just beautiful music which creates wonderful atmosphere. I decided that I'm going to interview people instead of letting them speak for 45 minutes, that we listen to one person, that I will do an interview. That creates extra dynamic, makes it more interesting. And also, I'm a bit in control if somebody starts going off or starts talking too long. So that was a real good tool actually to introduce that format of interviews. And our dinner meetings are very well visited. Lots of non-believers come and hear testimonies, and things are going really well. In addition, we also film them, and we've been broadcasting it for people who are not able to come, and also that way we're able to reach new people with the gospel, with the testimonies which we share at the dinner meetings, and that's going also really well. I really love the vision of our international president, Francis Owusu. I really think that all these pillars he's talking about are God's direction for our fellowship. And I personally really love the media part of it. That's why we're doing so much with media. And for the last 2 years, I've been really having it on my heart that we need to record the testimonies of business people, just as you saw with my own testimony, to record them like that and broadcast them. In the past, when Dimo Shakarian started the fellowship, he, under God's direction, started The Voice magazine. And that was wonderful for that season, for that period of time where people used to read magazines. But nowadays, people don't read magazines anymore. People watch clips, they watch videos on their mobile phones. And I really think that now we need to record those testimonies and broadcast them through social media, through YouTube, through all that for people to watch. I believe that this is the new season for The Voice magazine to become digital video format. And that's one thing I really want to work on. And I feel that's the way to reach business people now. We have been doing it in our own country with our own equipment, with our own dinner meetings, and we've been broadcasting and it's been going really good. And as our two businesses naturally came to a close, my wife asked me a question.
I did, and you didn't have an answer.
I didn't have an answer.
The question was, do you feel that now at this time that you are called predominantly to minister to businessmen and to reach them with the gospel, or to be a businessman who does ministry in his spare time?
And that's a question I never asked myself, and that's a question I didn't know the answer to. Because I've always been a businessman who travels, pays for my own travels, pays for the dinner meetings, and that's what I did in my spare time. Never thought about becoming a full-time minister who does that. And then we both started wrestling with that question, thinking about it, praying about it, and we came to the conclusion that Eastern Europe, which is the region which has been appointed to me, is really big. And if you look on the map, it's all blank. Only our country in the middle of that region has chapters of the full gospel. The rest, there is nothing. And then we realized that that's a big job. To reach Eastern Europe will require a lots of effort, a lots of time and finances. And me and my wife prayed and thought about it, and we are ready to go for it, to quit what she's doing. And as our two businesses have naturally come to a close, we are actually now available. We don't have commitments, so we're available to go and do that work full time. And we thought that if you guys pray about it and think about it, and if you're able to come up with a budget, we're ready to do that full time for the Lord. And we really want to submit it to you. We want to let you think about it, pray about it, and see what the Lord says. But we love Eastern Europe. We both have been called here. My wife is English. She came to Bulgaria as a missionary. We feel called to this part of the world, and we're gonna do that anyway.
So we've been putting all we can into this ministry in our own, in our spare time. But we really feel that if Europe is going to grow with this ministry, as opposed to just fizzling out, it's going to need a big push. We're going to need to go in a concentrated fashion and find men of peace, women of peace, families of peace, and start to raise up local leaders and to build chapters. And we feel it needs to be much more focused and much more relentless than we're able to devote time to now.
That's right, yeah. We have seen the importance of prayer. That's another one of the pillars, because we've done dinner meetings without praying very much for them, and things didn't go very well. But when we started praying regularly and really seriously, we saw amazing results. So we also need your prayers for Eastern Europe.
You remember the last meeting with Milena, how they had a whole group of people mobilized and they were fasting and praying, and we were praying, and how the whole thing just came together. So many people came, more than expected. 3 people prayed for salvation.
That's right.
And there was just grace on the whole thing.
It was amazing.
The meeting before that, we organized at the last minute because the speaker was unexpectedly available, and we just didn't have the time. We were too busy in the practical. We didn't have the time to really bathe it in prayer. And so we have really seen the difference, of course, that prayer makes, and how the Lord just brings the right people and removes the barriers from them so that they can come. But that's just something else that is really the pillar.
It is.
Without that, there's no fuel in the tank. Without that, there's no grace on it. So that's another thing that we feel we need to devote time to and build teams of people who are dedicated to doing that for Eastern Europe and in Eastern Europe.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, we really need prayer. Eastern Europe is a really large part of the world. There is approximately 200 million people who live in this part of the world, and all of us have come out of Soviet times, of communist times, where faith was forbidden, and now we're walking on the path of developing free democratic societies. And in this part of the world, there isn't a single chapter of the Full Gospel Businessman's Fellowship, and that's one thing me and my wife really want to work towards, establishing new chapters in this part of the world. We take the one chapter in each nation assignment really seriously, and in Eastern Europe there is a big job to do, because just as my wife said, most of the countries here don't have a single chapter. And growing up in communism, I have learned the Russian language, which is widely spoken in Eastern Europe. We also speak English, we understand the culture of the region, and we feel this is our assignment. This is the place where God has placed us, and we are willing to work for it. If you want to be a part of this new exciting season of starting chapters here in Eastern Europe, you can join us. You can support us in prayer. You can come on airlifts. God is doing a new thing here.